Hi everyone, welcome to our webinar today and thank you all very much for joining. My name is Liam Doyle, Product Specialist here at StaffConnect, and part of my role is to host these webinars to discuss with people like yourselves how mobile technology can transform internal comms and increase employee engagement. I've had an interest in technology for many years now, but more recently, how in particular technology can enhance the workplace. It is clear that employee engagement has become or is becoming an ever-growing issue recently within large enterprises, as well as the crisis that currently surrounds it. So in this webinar, I'll be discussing with you how this engagement crisis is further heightened during business transformations like mergers and acquisitions. I'll then take a look at how the rollout of a successful communication strategy can de-risk the impact and the role technology plays in this rollout. So a clear and accessible communication strategy is key, one that is able to include the entire workforce, including non-desk, field, frontline, and remote workers. So the webinar will last around about 20 minutes, which will then leave us with some time at the end where I'll be able to answer any questions that you might have. Employee engagement, defined in Forbes as the emotional commitment the employee has to the organization and its goals, is currently in crisis, according to Gallup research that found that only 13% of employees worldwide are actually engaged at work. Although slightly better in the US, it was noted that less than 1/3 of American workers report feeling involved and enthusiastic about their job. It may be viewed by some that this isn't much of an issue. It may not be surprising that people aren't enthused or enjoying their work. After all, isn't it just a job? This may have been the case if these statistics, they just finished at the numbers of engaged or disengaged employees. However, this process continues to the very success or failure of a company. It was found that companies with engaged employees outperform those without by a staggering 202%. More concerningly, the Bureau of National Affairs reports that $11 billion is lost each year due to staff turnover that has a direct correlation to employee disengagement. So it is not merely a case of employees feeling unhappy or disheartened within the workplace, but a far more serious issue for companies who are at risk of failing if these problems aren't resolved. So this rather gloomy picture is worsened, however, when you start to bring in the notion of M&A. By their nature, mergers and acquisitions bring in times of uncertainty, which in turn causes levels of engagement to fall further in jeopardy. Mergers clearly have an effect on employees, the stability of their roles within the organizations, whether they will still have a job or not once the merger has gone through. All this amounts to a very, very heavy weight for your employees to process. Therefore, if these issues and concerns are not openly addressed and spoken about, disengagement levels will continue to rise. So a study by Aon Hewitt found that the percentage of highly engaged employees in an M&A situation, it cannot be relied upon to remain stable over time as the two organizations combine. Instead, it is the reactions of individual employees that fluctuate in response to organizational changes at different stages of the acquisition process. This means that, even if some employees initially feel more engaged upon the announcement of an M&A event, once restructuring begins, the the percentage of those who have a high level of engagement tends to dip significantly lower than the global baseline of 10%, plummeting to as low as 5% a few months post-merger. Indeed, it can take years for engagement levels to rebound to where they were prior to the transition, which will ultimately impact on the profitability of the company and shareholder value. So what I'm going to do now is take you through 3 of the biggest challenges that employees will face when undertaking a merger. The first is productivity. Now, it is noticeable that many organizations struggle with productivity during a merger. Indeed, it is probably one of the largest and most common symptoms of a loss of engagement, a direct consequence of a poorly managed M&A integration. When employees aren't aware of the facts and gossip and uncertainty consume their time, productivity is always going to suffer as a result. A second challenge is the ability to attract and retain talent during a merger. Of course, this has always been a challenge, but in today's world where dissatisfaction is so widely amplified on social media and other platforms, the challenge is ever more concerning. Organizations must be alert to the potential power of rumors that could easily spread to external parties if they're not clear with their internal audiences. When employees are not involved, it's only natural that they will come to their own conclusions about why things are happening and what arguably will happen in the future. These worries, rumors, can escalate into fake news and has the potential to reach customers, partners, investors, clients, as well as competitors. With this fake news and gossip circulating, the business is thrown into a far weaker position, one that isn't attractive to new, exciting talent, nor is it reassuring for the top talent you currently have as they look around for a more stable organization. The third and final challenge that I will mention is centered around culture. So a McKinsey study found that 92% of employees said the process of an M&A would have gone far better if they had been given a clear understanding of the likely cultural issues from the start. It is, of course, vital, though, to understand the different cultures from those groups that will be integrated together, with each company assessing what is important for their employees. Only then can you start to amalgamate these cultures together. This, though, to be most effective, must happen well before the merger happens, to ensure a cultural priority can be set in place. It should be noted that the 3 challenges I've just been through are not the only issues that arise during these times of transition. However, a key method to solving these issues, or at least going a long way to solving them, is centered around your communication strategy. Any company that is about to undertake M&A activities must be proactive with their internal communication strategies, a plan that includes their entire workforce, reaching every employee regardless of where they are located. During any business transformation, communications must be easy and seamless. A communication strategy that is not merely top-down, but more collaborative, so that each employee has a voice. Managers and the hierarchy must be able to manage communications and disperse important information and updates, while frontline employees must be able to interact directly to those in leadership. Your internal communication strategy, it must be aligned with the merger roadmap, as well as external announcements. Your employees, they want to know about potential and planned restructures, and frankly, about their job security. The strategy should contain a mix of scheduled announcements and updates with time for employees to respond to these, so that the organization can gain important and valuable feedback and have the chance to adapt their strategy to reflect this feedback if necessary. Not only must your communication strategy adapt to the ongoing activities of the M&A, as well as your employee feedback, but it must consider every audience. By this, I mean the two different companies and their workforces who have their different cultures. Each company culture will be different, and the communications teams will be separate and independent to begin with. The strategy, therefore, needs to encompass this independence and a possible gradual or set date integration. We know then that communication is key during times of transition, but which channel or which technology is best to use? As I shall now discuss, we believe mobile technology to be superior. As previously stated, poor reach to employees who aren't desk-bound can lead a significant portion of the workforce to feel disengaged. Many emerging companies focus only on solutions for communicating with those in the office and neglect those who aren't. Yet this hurts the business as well as those employees left out of the loop, which in turn can have a negative impact on the merger. But with today's mobile technology, there is no reason for remote staff or those who travel to have to rely on sporadic emails, team meetings, or out-of-date message boards to get the information they need about the integration. Unlike intranets and enterprise social networks, you have the ability to reach the entire workforce, facilitate feedback, and generate engagement-related insights and reports, an invaluable tool during any M&A event. Furthermore, instead of simply being peer-to-peer, integrated mobile engagement solutions enable senior management and department heads to communicate with employees and vice versa from any location at any time, which can be key to maintaining full company engagement in a merger or acquisition. This means employees or employers now have the option to give non-desk remote staff a more effective tool and resource to have a voice and remain engaged in the integration process alongside their office-based colleagues. With an integrated engagement platform, your distributed teams and employees from integrating companies can receive information, share feedback, and collaborate via an app, even though they aren't co-located. By keeping all employees in the loop, up to date as to what is going on, and giving them their own voice, by keeping the lines of communication open, clear, and accessible, the veil of secrecy that so often covers these mergers or acquisitions has now figuratively been pulled back, allowing your employees to know what's happening with their jobs, their lives, as they remain engaged with their transition and the organization. It is clear that tech tools, mobile tools, can't solve every problem related to driving workforce engagement and collaboration. But as Aon Hewitt found, employees, they want more two-way dialogue with company leaders in times of change. And a mobile app like StaffConnect has the right technology and features to provide an easy and convenient platform for making this happen seamlessly. Furthermore, this technology can assist in many other key areas as well, including giving your employees a voice and recognition, improving co-worker alignment and the workplace environment, and providing tools to support work and productivity. It is clear then why a growing number of businesses undergoing M&A are turning to the specific type of new technology to tap the potential of keeping engagement high for their combined workforce. It may be argued by employers that providing their staff with these apps, particularly their non-desk workers, during a merger, they might act as a distraction rather than a tool for a workforce that, let's face it, is already rather distracted. Yet, as employees become more connected to the company via the platform, their engagement itself will help fuel their willingness to use the technology to support the goals of the newly merged entity and stay with the company rather than jump ship. This then results in a win-win scenario for the company and their employees. The employee engagement crisis, I would argue, is now well-founded, and research has clearly shown that those organizations with higher levels of engagement significantly outperform those who don't. Mergers and acquisitions, or indeed any transitional period, is prone to cause uncertainty within a company. And with this uncertainty, your employees are likely to become further disengaged as they are unaware as to what is going on, or if they will even still have a job once the transition is complete. This all has a very damaging effect on your company. There is a solution though. Keep an open line of communication between the business and employees. Don't leave them in the dark, but instead use them to your advantage with the transition, within the transition, by gaining valuable feedback. The best way to open these lines of communication through a mobile solution, one that has the ability to communicate and engage every single employee, whether they be working in your head office or in a factory or warehouse or out on the road. A solution that enables employees wherever they are to give feedback and remain engaged with the company, even through times of uncertainty like mergers or acquisitions. So that brings the presentation to an end. I do hope you found it useful. And now what we'll do is, if you do have any questions, there should be a chat area or a question area in the bottom of your control panel where you'll be able to type them. So ask away. So we just have a question coming in here, which is, so what have you seen companies go through when merging, and how have they tackled communication and engagement? You know, it's a very good question, and I would say the proportion of enterprises, companies approaching StaffConnect because of an M&A has noticeably increased in the last year. In one case, a company was fighting a hostile takeover. A different business wanted to conduct a merger with them that was more, I guess, in line with their strategy and wishes. They chose our mobile platform to transparently communicate the reasons why they preferred to merge rather than be taken over. Another example comes from a demerger of two big construction companies. They are in the process, or were in the process, of returning to be independent entities. One of those organizations rolled out our solution to communicate the reasons and the strategy for becoming independent. While they started doing that, the other companies saw the benefits of a mobile approach that could reach everyone. So it too decided to follow the same process. So StaffConnect has ended up working with actually both sides to help them demerge their business and keep staff informed and engaged throughout that transformation. Hopefully I answered that well enough. Any other questions? What I might do actually very quickly, while any of you are typing your questions, it's a very it's not during a time of mergers and acquisitions. These non-desk workers, they don't have constant access to a computer or a corporate email account necessarily, and they rely on team meetings or, as I mentioned, out-of-date notice boards to essentially see what's going on within the company they work for, to try to find, you know, updates and, as I say, what's going on. It's not feasible anymore. You know, you're working possibly on the road or in warehouses, and if you don't have that access to what's going on or your own voice within the organization, you're not going to be engaged. You're not going to have any interest anymore if you don't know what's going on or can't affect what's going on. So by having a mobile tool like StaffConnect, you are giving your employees not only an instant, modern, immediate access to what's going on, important information, surveys, events within the organization, the ability to chat with employees using the app even though you aren't co-located, and it also gives them their own voice within the organization. It really means that they have the opportunity to, one, know what's going on, and two, have their say. They have their own individuality within the company, which is such an important tool. And as you saw at the statistics of the beginning of the presentation, the ability that engagement and high levels of engagement have on an organization, outperforming those who don't, are so drastic that it does make you wonder how really you can drive employee engagement, because not only is it beneficial for the employees themselves, but as a company, the levels of productivity and ultimately profitability that comes with the high levels of profitability that comes with engagement are so positive that it really makes you wonder, how do we increase those levels of engagement? And mergers and acquisitions, it's such a unsure time really of what's going on. It's very unsteady essentially. So with employee engagement being already in crisis and mergers and acquisitions really not doing that any help, the focus must really be on your common strategy and how we make sure that employees have their own voice, their own say, and how we can keep them up to date as to what's going on. Just thought I would just put that out there. There haven't been any more questions, so if there are no more questions, then what we'll do is we will wrap it up. Thank you very much all for coming. I do hope you found our brief session this afternoon interesting, and if you would like to find out about employee engagement or StaffConnect, or a bit more about mergers and acquisitions, you can drop me a line, give me a call. My contact details are all on screen, and we can arrange a time to chat. Otherwise, I hope you all have a good rest of your day, a good weekend coming up, and thank you once again for joining us. Thanks. Bye.